Hello, I'm Timothy Patrick McCarthy, and I'm a faculty member here at the Harvard Kennedy School in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it's really wonderful for me to be part of the Girls for Girls platform and this new program trying to mentor girls and women to become more inspiring and more effective public leaders. And I teach a course here at the Kennedy School called The Arts of Communication. I've taught the course here for 12 years now, and I've had hundreds, if not thousands, of students from all over the world who've taken this class to try to become more effective communicators in their own right in the work that they do in the world. And among those students have been some of the most phenomenal women I've ever met from all over the globe, from every country in the world, who come to the Kennedy School to learn not just how to communicate more effectively, but how to lead more powerfully and more profoundly, how to make change in the world, and do that in all sorts of ways. And it's been a great privilege and pleasure of mine to teach these women and to learn from them as well. And so I'm thrilled that Girls for Girls is something that has been founded by so many of these phenomenal women who've taken my class. And that's another reason why I'm so happy to support this program. We know that mentoring works. And we know that mentoring works because extraordinary women can help to teach and train and inspire extraordinary girls to follow in their footsteps, as they have followed in the footsteps of the women and the men who have come before them. And so this is a program that I think is really important. It's never been more important than it is right now. We know two things about the realities that girls and women face, and we know some things about the realities of gender and gender-based discrimination in the world. One thing that we know is that there isn't a country or a culture or a context where women and girls are not discriminated against because of sex and because of gender, and that there are forms of oppression, hierarchies that exist, patriarchies that are in place that constrain and suppress the evolution and advancement and empowerment of girls and women. And that this is one of the great injustices that pervades every culture, every country, and every context on earth. And this is not okay. This is a human rights violation, it's a civil rights violation, it's a violation of our common humanity, and it seeks to undermine the potential of all human beings to flourish and to lead. So that's one thing we know. The other thing that we know is that when we empower girls and women, when we create contexts for girls and women to lead and to flourish and to be equal in terms of the opportunities available to them in societies, that those societies flourish. We know that when girls and women are empowered, our societies are better. They're more equitable, they're more just, they're more profound. And so one of the things that I'm committed to, and that so many of my colleagues here are committed to, and that the women who have founded Girls for Girls are committed to, is providing those kinds of contexts, to put in place mentoring programs where women are helping to mentor girls and teach them the skills that they need to take advantage of those opportunities in the face of those realities. And communications is one set of skills that I think is necessary to combat those prejudices and that discrimination, and to create more opportunities for advancement and empowerment of girls and women worldwide. The Arts of Communication class that I teach seeks to get students to think about three objectives. That all effective and great communicators do three things. They are clear, they are persuasive, and they are inspiring. And so when I teach my class on the very first day, I say that there are three objectives or aspirations for the class: clarity, persuasion, and inspiration. What I mean by clarity is that we need to, when we communicate, find the language and the framings and the messages and the arguments that are most clear to the most number of people. That we need to choose language that's accessible and choose language that resonates with people, whether we're telling a story or advancing an argument or making a case for a particular kind of public policy or a piece of legislation. So finding the clearest words, articulating what you're trying to say in the most succinct way, in the sharpest way, is one very important piece. If you're not clear, you're never going to be able to communicate effectively. The second thing that I talk to my students about is persuasion. That oftentimes when we communicate in public, when we're in positions of leadership, we seek to persuade audiences, constituents, stakeholders, peers, opponents of a particular position or policy that we'd like them to consider or to embrace. And so finding the right arguments And advancing the right arguments is very, very important. Finding the right evidence to support those arguments, to move people from one place to another, to get them to consider something that they haven't considered before is absolutely essential. We may not persuade everyone, right? That's part of politics. That's part of living in a diverse world, is that there are going to be people who have differences of opinion. And we may never move everyone to the place that we'd like them to be. But we do have to try to be as persuasive as possible. And that requires us to come up with strong arguments and find the best evidence to support those strong arguments, to have the best chance to move people, to persuade people to move from one place to another. When Aristotle defined rhetoric in antiquity, he talked about rhetoric as the art of persuasion. And the core of any public communications project is that persuasive piece. And so we have to be able to do that too. But in addition to being clear and persuasive, which are the two foundations of communication, we also, I think, should seek to be inspiring, to be inspirational. When I ask my students who are the people that they think are the most effective communicators, it's always people that are able to inspire them or move them in some way, not just logically in terms of convincing them of an argument, but affectively, emotionally, in terms of moving them to think about the world in a bigger, bolder, or braver way, to get out of their chair and to get into the world and to act in ways that will make the world a better place. And so being able to inspire people with your own story or your own message or your own argument, your own life, is also a really important part of that. And so one thing I always ask my students to do is to find who are the models of great communicators that you see in the world. Who are the people that you think are most clear and most effective and most inspiring? Who are the people that you would follow if you were to see a leader who could inspire you to do something? And so I want all of my students to not just learn how to be clear and persuasive, but to become inspiring communicators and inspiring public leaders as well. When I think about the kinds of things that students need to develop in terms of their skills, the kinds of approaches that they need to take as communicators, I talk to them about three things. The first thing is that I talk to them about knowing their audience. Communication at its core is about relationships. Every time you get up to speak in public, whether it's at a small meeting or a town hall gathering or a legislature or parliament or giving a speech in front of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of people, that's an opportunity to establish a relationship with the audience of people that you're speaking to. Just as writers need to keep in mind who their readers are, speakers need to keep in mind who their listeners are, who their audience is. And that audience will change depending on the context. That sometimes we speak to audiences of people who are who we know, who are our peers, or people that we have some kind of intimate relationship with. Sometimes we speak to people we preach to the choir, people who already agree with us or may be sympathetic to whatever we're trying to talk about. And then sometimes we're speaking to audiences of people that are hostile, that don't think the way we do, that may disagree with a position that we take, may not have any understanding of what our lives are when we try to express them to other people. And so we have to, when we go into those settings where we're communicating with audiences, we have to figure out who our audiences are. Who are the people I'm speaking to? What do they bring to the table or to the room or to the video? What kinds of prejudices do they have? What kinds of dreams or aspirations do they have? How do I connect with them? What do I need to say that's going to resonate with them, that's going to open a door so that that relationship can be more productive? So the first thing you have to do is map your audiences, figure out who you're speaking to in any given setting, and then tailor the way that you communicate to those various audiences. So knowing your audience is absolutely important, and it's a skill that requires self-reflection and that requires a certain kind of reflection about the people that are that you as a self are trying to communicate with. So knowing your audience is absolutely essential. The second thing that I talk to my students about is about values. I think that all great communicators understand how to articulate and express what makes them tick. At the Kennedy School, I talk to my students all the time about not just saying what they believe, but to try to unpack the why behind the what. To not just say who they are, but to give people a sense of why they are who they are. To not just say what I think we should do or what action I think we should take, but to say why we should take that action. And so the values that I'm talking about, what makes us tick, is the why behind the what and the who and the how. And values come from a range of places. Our values are shaped and forged in our lives. They come from our faith traditions, they come from our families, they come from the experiences that we have in school, in society. Sometimes those values are shaped by negative experiences, that we value equality or opportunity because we may not have access to equality or opportunity. We may be experiencing inequality, and that's the thing that leads us to value equality. We may not have opportunities to get a great education, and so we value the opportunity to go to school and to have equal access to schooling and education. Sometimes those values are forged positively, that we experienced in our families a kind of love, a kind of nurturing that gives us a kind of pride in ourselves, a self-love, and also a belief that we can do whatever we set out to do. And so sometimes valuing love or valuing family or valuing community are things that are shaped positively because we've had positive experiences in those ways. And so values are things that are forged through life. The journey of life, our own experiences, our own identities, our own struggles and challenges. But identifying and expressing, finding our values and being able to say with a full throat what they are, the why behind everything that is us, is really, really important. And so in addition to knowing your audience and finding your values, it's also, I think, important to tell your story. Different countries and cultures have different ways of telling stories. That every society has its own story about how, say, a nation emerged, where a nation was born. Every society has stories about its own struggles, its own internal debates and disagreements. And societies have stories. Individuals have stories. Faith traditions have stories. Nations have stories. And it's important for us to think about what story we want to tell about ourselves. Where do we come from? How did we evolve? What challenges have we faced? What dreams do we have? What struggles have we endured? But also stories about how our own individual lives link up with and connect with the lives of all other people that we share a society or a nation, a community, or a world with. And so it's important for us to have stories of self, but also stories of us, stories of other people that we can connect with to do something bigger than ourselves. And so telling those stories, figuring out how to share our stories with others is really important, not only because it makes us more legible and accessible to the people that we want to communicate with, the relationships that we want to have, but it also helps to personalize and humanize our own experiences such that there may be something that we have in common with other people who may be different from us. There may be something essentially human about my story or your story that can connect with a larger group of people or a larger community or society. And so it's important to be able to tell those stories as well. Oftentimes when we think about communication, especially the persuasive piece of communication, we think logically. What's the best evidence to try to advance an argument, to convince an audience of a thing we want them to embrace or do? But we also process things affectively and emotionally, and stories help to tap into all of those emotions. We've all been angry, we've all been hopeful, we've all experienced joy, we've all been in and out of love, we all have dreams, and all of those things are part of the emotional experience of being human. And stories help to access that, to make that come alive, and to have those emotional experiences, which are linked to the human experience, connect with other people who are also human and also emotional. Also capable of rational and logical thinking and processing arguments and advancing arguments, but it's the logical and the emotional put together that help us advance in society and come together to build communities and to pursue a common good, a human good, that's going to make all of us, in the end, better people. And so what I'd like to say is that this work can be done in a variety of settings. One place to start, which is why I think Girls for Girls is such an important program, is that we can learn how to communicate effectively with people who support us. I tell my students all the time, find your herd. Find your herd. Find the people in your life who are going to have your back, who are going to support you, who are going to try to help you move from where you are to where you want to be. And we do that through finding communities of support, through mentoring programs like this, where you have women who are interested in mentoring girls, so that all of you can move forward together and show us a model of what the best of us can be. And so these mentorship circles, that's a foundational aspect of Girls for Girls, can be one place to begin to develop these skills, to nurture these skills, and to amplify these skills, so that once you move into a larger context outside of a supportive community, you're able to be as effective and as persuasive and as clear and as inspiring as you can possibly be. And so it's my great pleasure to support this program, to be with you from the very beginning, and to offer up whatever help I can give moving forward to support the work that you're all doing. Good luck, we need you.